Well, good morning and welcome to Tampa Bay Automotive down here in rather sunny Florida, where it's still hot and only a few days away from December. I'm standing here with the 2015 Chevy Colorado LT with a 3.6 liter V6. Now, when Chevy designed this truck, they didn't give it a lot of interesting exterior quirks or features, but there are still some. What they did give it was one of the more car-like stylings of any truck on the road, aside from maybe the Honda Ridgeline. But while we're on the terms of the exterior, let's move to the back. Now, while we're here at the back, you're going to notice one of the first things I noticed was the size of this fuel door. It's bigger than my hand and it opens much like a BMW. But when you open it, you see that all the space has gone to this rubber cover over all the diesel stuff, which is weird because the diesel didn't come out for another 2 years. While we're on the subject back here, the wheels. They're 5-spoke wheels, smaller than you'd expect, but it has 6 lugs on a truck that you'd reasonably expect 5. Now, moving further to the back, you'll see the taillights are also gigantic. And then you have this handy little step to help you get in the back with the help of this small handle on the top. Again, not much on this truck, but the rest of the stuff is all at the front. So let's move up there. Now, up here at the front, you have the badge, which is about the same size that you'd expect. But what you wouldn't expect is all this chrome up here, but none down here. And this air dam on the bottom, which is so big, I'd actually be worried about scraping it on speed bumps. And then there's the headlights, which are once again humongous. Now, back here on the tailgate, you'll see a badge that's about the same size as the one on the front. A low resolution backup camera. And the taillights, which again are big, but they don't look as big. That's because they aren't. They're actually wider on the side than they are on the back. Now, this tailgate is nice in the way that it has a soft open function, so it doesn't just slam onto the bumper and break it. And then it has these nice steps, which let you climb into the bed and see the Chevy bow tie stamped on the back of it. Now, in here, it's not an amazing place to sit, but it's also not terrible. I've been in worse. These seats look like the same seats that are in a Camaro if you took out all the sportiness. I mean, even the headrests are the same. The gauge cluster is very similar to the Camaro, so is the center console. The interior has leather and lots of plastic, and even some rubber. Now, this truck is not a crew cab, it's a king cab, which is good because then you don't have the center pillar, meaning that you can load bigger things into the back. But it's bad because that also means that you don't have the center pillar to mount the seatbelt on or various things like that. So instead, they've had to mount it on the door, which is just kind of a strange quirk. Now, with this door open, that also leads me to the world's smallest truck back seats, which I will now attempt to get in. Now, speaking of these back seats, which I will be getting in a second, you can take the headrest off and put it on the bottom of the seat, right here. But only on the passenger side, which is kind of strange. I can't think of a good reason to only have it on the passenger side. But for now, I guess me, a 5'8" human being, will now attempt to sit in the back seat of this small truck. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is that there's no grab handle, which makes it kind of tough to get in to begin with. So you kind of have to grab the roof before getting in. Whoa. Now, this seat has to be quite far forward. Whoa. Before a human being can fit back here. And even then, the back is straight up vertical. My knees are buried in the leather of the front seat. I guess you do get 2 USB ports and a 12 volt, but no amount of luxury back here can make up for the fact that I'm crushed against the front seat. And with that, once I figure out how to get out, onto the driving portion. Alright, so here we have the driving portion. Now it is quite sunny today, so I'm wearing sunglasses, but I'm not going to test this truck as you would a car. Acceleration times are, it's good to know, but, it's not totally necessary. Now, of course, on-road performance is going to be a thing I talk about, because that's, what I'm good at talking about. So, with that, off we go. Now, once again, ground clearance is a surprising concern on the front lip of this truck. Now, that being said, these brakes grab really well. So if it seems kind of jerky while I'm driving, that's probably why. Throttle response, that's pretty good. It's not as crisp as, say a sports car of some kind or certain BMWs. But, it's good. This automatic transmission definitely likes to downshift all the time. Now, I'll be taking a similar route to the last review, but it's not going to include the interstate. Now, bear in mind, this is a V6 truck, so, you don't expect V8 performance. However, the other option at the time was a 4-cylinder, not a 4-cylinder diesel. So you can expect it to be more powerful than the 4-cylinder. Now, cornering is, it's good for a truck. It's not as rolly as, say, a Ram, maybe, but it's not quite as crisp as a Titan. AC works. It's hard to kind of quantify that. But overall, the truck is comfortable and it accelerates fast enough. Now, you don't exactly have to stab the gas to get it to go, but the pedal is surprisingly tough to press. It almost feels like it's rubbing against some kind of rubber to keep you from pushing it all that hard. But again, it's a V6, so you expect that performance. If it was me, I'd probably go out and put a turbocharger on it, something similar to what they did what Buick did on the Regal T and the Grand National. Now, this road that I'm turning onto now has some bumps in it. Not huge bumps, but enough to be able to tell how the suspension goes. So, let's get to that. Alright. Once again, this isn't, the bumpiest road, but it has enough bumps to be able to tell what the suspension's like. And, wow, actually, surprisingly stiff for a dailyable truck. It's not bad, but certainly not the smoothest ride in the world, which is fair because, you need the extra suspension for payload. But it being a small truck, they usually tend to be more geared towards daily driving than towing or hauling. So, yeah, it's not incredible. Let's see if I can find more bumps. Alright, this is more of a neighborhood section, but there's speed bumps in this neighborhood, and some other road undulations. I just wish that we had a dirt track around here that we could test it on, but we unfortunately do not. There we go, speed bump. I don't know if it's portraying it through the camera, but it is actually rather tough again. Like it'd be good for off-road, or something that stiffer suspension would be maybe ideal for, but not really for a good daily. And these seats, they're okay, but they don't have as much padding as you would expect from a daily truck. That probably showed it off better than the speed bumps. It's actually kind of tough. Now, the nice thing about this truck is it's not super wide. It's pretty wide by small truck standards, but it's not as wide as, say, like I said earlier, a Ram or something of that nature. It's not a 1500 by any means. It's definitely a small truck. Now, that's not saying that you couldn't get one as big as that. I remember parking a 2013 1500 next to a Colorado crew cab with the long bed, 4-wheel drive lifted. They were, the Colorado was narrower, but they were about the same length, which kind of gives you an idea on how big this truck feels. It feels bigger than it is, but again, not huge. You definitely feel like you're over the road, like you're driving a truck, but it's not as big as others. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that's really the only feeling I'm getting from this. And it drives well. It's definitely a good driving vehicle. Not like performance driving, but for average use, except for the suspension. Again, not a lot of body roll. And, the brakes are really snappy. It's definitely nice on a smoother piece of road, or, say, a dirt track, maybe, where you'd expect it to be a bit rough and bumpy. Now, onto that terrible backup camera I was mentioning. It's definitely not HD, but then again, I wouldn't exactly expect that. But in light, things are kind of vague. Like, I can see my car there, but you're better off using the mirrors. So in conclusion, this truck or sedan, it's really having trouble figuring out what it is. I'd say it's about 60% car, 40% truck, meaning that it gets all the bad of a truck, all the good of a car, plus the space of a bed. For me, a would you buy basis, I'd give it about a 5 out of 10, right there in the middle, because would I own one? Maybe, but because there's so much you can add through the different trims. Like, you can go from this, which is a V6 rear-wheel drive truck, all the way up to a ZR2, which has the Multimatic suspension off of a Camaro. It has the 6-cylinder option, or even the 2.4-liter 4-cylinder Baby Duramax diesel. There's just such a wide variety in this truck's trims, it's hard to review one and say that it's the same for them all. So, with that very confusing conclusion, this has been Tampa Bay Automotive, and I bid you farewell. Good night.